Hey y'all, Ramdino here, coming at you again from what is a glorious Easter Sunday for another Appalachian Trail community news and thru hiker update. First off, Merry Easter, Happy Easter, whatever it is to you. I hope you will enjoy some time out there on the trail, and particularly now that spring is starting to sprung and still got a little bit of cold weather that's going to be in front of us, but in any case, things are looking up. If you've come to support the hiker community and find out what's going on in the hiker community, particularly the Appalachian Trail, you've come to the right place. So let's go ahead and get started. So we got one guy out there from 2020 that is working on finishing up, and that is Trail Marshall, and he left Palmerton on Monday. Says he's making good miles, and he is going to finish Jersey Sunday. Keep plugging along. He has got 90 days to do 933 miles, so pretty possible there. And right now he is 885 miles from Katahdin, so looking forward to him getting finished. 2021 folks, got a ton of them out there. Dirty Doss, he will be at the Mountain Harbor Hostel for Easter night, which is tonight, of course. And he had been tenting in near zero conditions as he went through the Roan Mountain Highlands. So that's my favorite section up there. Haven't hiked it in that cold of conditions, so don't know how I would enjoy that. Last hike a couple weeks ago, me and Come Along went through Grayson Highlands, and it was like 7 degrees wind chill. And I sleep in a duplex. We stayed there at Elk Garden, and I'm just going to tell you, there's not a lot of wind that gets cut by that duplex, and so it was chilly. So I can imagine what you're going through up there, and anybody else that's at those higher elevations, like up in the Smokies and such. Had several hikers tell me that they had been hiking alone or in small crowds this past week, and of course this past week was when the temperature got down pretty low. We also had some wet weather on certain sections of the trail, and so what happens is people get off the trail. There are a lot of folks that stay out there on the trail, and when they stay out there on the trail, other hikers, or a good bit of them, are off trail, staying out of the weather, and so that's why it can make you think you're in between bubbles, or something's going on out there, when really all it is you're the only one that's, we'll say, brave enough to test themselves out there in that cold weather. Mara Gardner got her trail name of Velcro, and she is hiking with Calamari, and they are around the Max Patch area. Gerald Shannon and Melissa and Matilda are flipping their Subo flip-flop, and they're bouncing around the central Virginia and the Shanties to avoid some weather, but they are continuing to move north. Subman and Suds, they are part of some of our RVs, and they are going to take their RV home though, and we'll talk about that in just a minute why, but they're going to take it home, come back to the trail, and start there in the Mount Rogers area whenever they get back, and continue their hike more in a traditional hiker shelter to campsite to hostel, as opposed to having an RV to go to. Pookie Bear, he has lost basically a small Pookie Bear. By that I mean he has lost 50 pounds. So congratulations to him. He is one of our folks that's on the Appalachian Trail diet. Most people do lose weight, and he has definitely lost a bunch, and he continues to slim down as he finishes the Smokies. The Blazing Bakers and Ultra Hiker, they are somewhere around the Shanties and should be getting there real soon. Wonder Monk, he is heading into the Smokies. Trail Light and Speed Bump, otherwise known as the A-Team, and not because they like to blow stuff up, but because their last name starts with an A. They are almost to the Smokies, and they indicated they seem to be in front of the bubble, but again, we'll talk about that. I don't really think they're in front of the bubble. They're probably on the leading edge of the bubble. The heat map kind of here shows us where the bubble's at, and it's spread out really all the way from Springer, because we still got multiple double-digit people starting every day right now. So it's spread all the way from Springer all the way to around the Smokies. So they probably own the leading edge of it there in the Smokies. Huck made it to Neil Gap. Lufa is in the Smokies. Robert from the Shaker Hikes channel, he got his trail name of Lighthouse, and he's a Mainer. So he says that he got his trail name because his tramley named him Lighthouse, because his legs are so white that he is going to light the way all the way to Katahdin. So I guess they use him at night. Kind of, people might put their headlight under like a styrofoam cup to kind of make like a lantern. So I think everybody just points him at his legs, and it kind of bounces off, and the whole place is lit up. But in any case, appreciate you sharing that with us, Lighthouse. Tex is out of the Smokies and on her way to the hot springs. Sloth, Soa, Spoons, Repeat, and Athena, they are on their way to Irwin. She's the one that's past Hot Springs and moving on up to a little further up to Sarah's, Virginia, where she left off last year to continue north, and she has less than 1,000 miles to finish her completion of the Appalachian Trail. So that's exciting for her. Corner is arriving at the Knock any day now. RV should be in North Carolina and says thanks to some trail angels that really helped him out down in Georgia. King Tut with Nudge Ministries at Tenacity Gap and Burger Feed at Unicoi Gap. He also says that the Walgreens in Hiwassee is offering free COVID-19 vaccines to anyone over 16, including out-of-state residents. Now, I will tell you that the first COVID vaccine I had, the first round of it, I really didn't have any type of problems with it. Had a sore arm, got tired that night. That was it. Got up next day, I was good to go. I had mine this past weekend, correction, I had it on Thursday. Friday, I was completely knocked down. Couldn't do nothing Friday. Saturday, I tried to get up and work, and when I got up and did a bunch of cutting wood and pulling limbs and stuff like that, clearing some brush, wore myself out, and pretty much wore myself out into being sick again. And I had a fever, all that neat stuff, just like I had the flu, no gastrointestinal stuff. And then today, I still feel like I've hiked about 20 miles. So today being Sunday, and that was Thursday when I took it. So keep in mind the second shot may be tough for you, and you better plan a couple zeros if you're doing it out there on the trail. I had the Pfizer version, which a lot of people say the Moderna version is what's causing the problems. The Pfizer version gave me problems too. So I don't know about the Johnson & Johnson. So just remember that it affects people different ways, and good luck to you if you decide to have it while you're out there on the trail. Possum and Ramble, they are in the Great Smoky Mountains. The old man, he got on trail at Springer today. Mr. Freeze, he's around the Luray area. Yogi Bear is halfway through the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. Merrily made it to Knock. Silva is south of Irwin. Captain America and Rapture are hitting the Grayson Highlands today, and he was joined by his wife, who flew out from Spokane, and she did Damascus up through the Grayson Highlands with him. So I'm sure that is going to be pretty neat. Not so much had his family join him around the 900-mile mark to celebrate Easter, and they had an Easter egg hunt at the hotel and Easter lunch with all the trimming. So that was awesome. Glad to see those families coming out and joining their loved ones on the trail. Roadrunner is on his way to Hot Springs. Runway is on her way to Irwin. Aquaman, he spent Easter and got an Easter sunrise out on the Max Patch on his way to Hot Springs. BFG sent in a video from Wesser Bald. Go ahead, BFG, just take a look at that.
Hey Ramdino, it's Brian Helton, otherwise known as the BFG. I'm here at Westerbald. It's been a great time hiking here in North Carolina. Thanks for welcoming me to the state. Several people are on the trail right now. We've still got a pretty good bubble going on. Weather's been really cold the last few days, but now it's starting to get pretty. I hope you have a blessed day.
I want you to look at that view behind him. That was awesome to see that, and those kind of views just make me want to get out on the trail right now, although I knew I wouldn't be any good because I just got the shot. Two Knees, he is on his way to the Knock. The Burks are in the Smokies, and they say they haven't been able to sleep in a shelter yet because the shelters are maxed out with hikers. So most of those are through hikers, I understand it. And people are having a tent around the shelters in the Smokies, so keep that in mind. It's getting pretty crowded out there. Double Take and Colonel, they made it to the Knock, and also Kuroki, and they are on to Fontana. RG Hikes is around the Pearisburg area, and Mike and Kathy Kathy. They are north of Pearisburg and say the motels in Pearisburg are pretty much booked up with the pipeline workers that are putting in the Mountain Valley pipeline that you've heard so much about. So they say they're not available to hikers. So hostels are there, so just keep that in mind. You get in Pearisburg, it's going to be really hard to find a hotel if you don't stay in a hostel. So we had several folks, several hikers that got off this week. 2Ps, which is the 2Ps team of Moonbeam and Big Cypress, they were RVers along with Subman and Suds, and they have decided to call it. So I think the weather had something to do with that, but the extreme weather they were feeling, and they were just, they were, even though they were RVs, they weren't staying in the RVs every night. So they were going through Grayson Highlands and had some sub-freezing wind chills, and so the week before that it was just a lot of cold, a lot of wet, even snow and stuff, and I think that just finally they decided that they were not having fun. And so at that point, when you're just trying to get to camp and you're not enjoying yourself, well, it's time to get off the trail. So that's what they did. So Greenleaf and Apple Pie, they've also have called their hike in New Jersey, and they are getting off. Greenleaf has a business, and his business was not going to function properly without him. And Apple Pie has decided that she's going to, since he's getting off, she's going to get off, and she's going to go do some other trails that she's been wanting to do, and so she's going to do that. Brandon Wasden, he is off the trail with a torn meniscus, will not be coming back. Outfitter's off the trail, and Spotter is currently north of Rome, along with Pac-Man, Wooby, Road Trip, and Paradise. So they are still on trail. So thanks to all those who sent in me their updates and videos, and those folks that let me know they're off the trail, particularly folks that update on a regular basis to social media. When you stop updating, we worry about you, and so we want to make sure you're okay, even if you're off the trail. So thanks a lot for you folks for sending that in. You guys out there that want to be included in this every week, send that to me on Friday and Saturday. Works best is when I am kind of going down through my emails and going through my direct messages and checking all those. During the week, the matrix, I get caught up in that, and I want to keep the information as current as possible, while at the same time I'm not giving exact positions for everybody for hiker safety. But if you want to be included, and you want to include everybody that wants to be included, send me those videos, or you can send videos if you like, but send me your updates on Friday and Saturday. Works best for me. So we still got people that are registering for the trail. We still got people that are getting on the trail. We are up 59 no-bow hikers from last week, so that brings us up to 2,780 no-bow that are registered. Flip-floppers, we are up 12, so that brings us up to 175 from last week. And from last week on Sobo, we are up 128 hikers, so that brings us up to 282 registered Sobo hikers. And now that has overtaken the flip-floppers, which it typically does about this time of year. And so that brings us up 199 hikers from last week, for a total of 3,237 that are registered right now with the ATC. So we know that a lot of folks out there are, typically we have 10 to 30% that don't register anyway. So there's probably more out there than what is that we're showing on, that the ATC is showing on their registration rolls. Now, down in Amicalola Falls State Park, where you can check in down there and sign their registration book, we've had 1,548 folks have signed that down there, and that is up 255 hikers from last week. So that's about 36 people per day that have been hitting the trail. And that's pretty much how it's been going, and that doesn't include folks that are not registering, going down to Amicalola Falls State Park, signing into the book. Some people just go straight to the parking lot at Springer and backtrack up to Springer the mile or so there, and then come back down and start their no-bow hike. So that's kind of the information we've got there from hikers that have sent me that. So if you're a hiker and you're getting ready to get started and you are going to check in, send me a shot of that book down there. I'll be sure, if I do include a picture of it, to blot out any kind of information that, addresses or anything like that, to keep people's privacy for them. Those folks that have all the folks that are starting this week and have been starting last week, and the amount of people that are starting, that will start petering out here probably after this week. We can see here in this shot of the registrations that it definitely starts breaking down and getting less and less. And so sometime toward the end of April, maybe mid-May, is when there won't be near as many people that are starting. So toward the end of May, if you want to do a section down in Georgia, that's the time that you need to be planning to be doing it. And I did want to mention that I have seen the hikers have sent me shots from that book, and I've been looking at the pack weights. That's what really interests me more than anything. And the pack weights are still somewhere around the low to mid 30s, so people are still packing their winter weight right now, as well they should be. So don't be sending that home or not bringing it to the trail quite yet, because we still got some days out there when it's likely that it's going to be cold and you're going to need that. So trail news. Well, Mr. Freeze, he is in the Shanties, and he sent in an update on the waysides in the Shanties. So he says that the Loft Mountain Wayside, which is at mile 893, is closed. Big Meadows Wayside, which is mile 925, is open, but the restaurant is closed. So the store's open with resupply options, but they also have cold sandwiches, ice cream, snacks, soda, beer, and some other things there, and you can resupply. The Big Meadows campground store is open, but he says it is not a good place to resupply, and there's tons of car campers there. Big Meadows Lodge is closed, and the Skyline Resort restaurant and snack bar are open, and he's not sure about the hotel. So the waysides don't all open at the same time in the Shanties. I don't know why, but they don't. So it seems like progressing north, they open, a week later here and a week later there. So they are eventually, by the end of April, though, they all typically are open. And then last week we had reported about the ATC, or somebody affiliated with the ATC was asking questions at Springer if people were through hikers and if they had registered down at Amlicola Falls State Park in that book. And we thought that was kind of odd. Well, we have found out that who that is that is the, like we thought was possible last week and mentioned that is the part of the Georgia Appalachian Trail Club. So while it is the Appalachian Trail Club, it's not really directly affiliated with the ATC. So these folks are, the trail club that's out there pretty much on their own. Trail clubs typically have their own agreement with whatever National Forest Service they're in, and so they use that information that they were asking to go back to the Forest Service and say, hey, here's the usage that we have. And they also take pictures of what's going on there. Here's how much usage we're having. We need some more resources to help us out with what's going on there, to do some repairs, to do some trail work, things of that nature. So they probably go back to the ATC. Don't know if the ATC helps them out at all. They probably do a little bit. But they do get help from the National Forest Service there. So that was the reason they were collecting that. And I just wanted to make sure that we set the record straight there, because there are there's an ambassador program that they have there, where they're ambassadors for the trail, that they go around and they help hikers that are out there on the trail. They help them with leave no trace, teach things like that to them, and just generally look after them in those kind of areas. They also do a lot of cleaning up, unfortunately, after hikers who leave gear in bear boxes and gear in shelters, because for whatever reason they don't want to carry it out. And I think that's pretty pitiful for a hiker to do that. At least wait till you get to a trash can, or carry it to Neil's Gap or something like that and throw it away when you get there. Put it in a hiker box, but don't make somebody else carry it. And they also do things like they clean up. One of them was mentioning that they cleaned up poop on the trail. A couple places that there was poop that was somebody had done their business near water sources. So, if they weren't out there doing that for us, then, and for hikers, for y'all, then it would be a pretty nasty situation up there. So thanks a lot to you trail maintainers for doing that, for your ambassador program that do that, for the trail rangers that are out there that are doing that, for even for the ridge runners that are out there doing that, because these folks are, while the ridge runners may be employed by the ATC, that doesn't mean that they are in lockstep with all the goings on that's been going on with the hierarchy at the ATC and the president of the ATC and the poor decisions and the punitive actions that they've taken last year and this year. So the person that I was speaking with, or that I was communicating with, had indicated that there had been some interactions between hikers and some of the ambassador people, some of the ridge runners, some of the club members that were, pretty bad, pretty rude, and even some threats. And that's not who we are as a hiker community. Those people, while they may be on the Appalachian Trail, they're out there for the trail. They're out there for hikers. They are not out there for the Appalachian Trail Conservancy. And so treat them with respect. Thank them, because they're the ones maintaining those privies for you. They're the ones cleaning up after people that didn't clean up, and it would be a sad state of affairs if they weren't out there. So thank them and be nice to them. And by all means, there occasionally when you have a ridge runner, that, if you're in the Smokies or the Shanties, they may come across as being, a little less than, I guess, nice, or is a term maybe. I mean, they're not overtly rude to you or anything like that, but a lot of people feel like that when they ask you for your permit, that they don't have a right to do that. So they do have a right to do that, and that's just part of their job description. They have to do that to keep their job. So don't worry about it. Just hand them your permit and give them a smile and keep on hiking, because you're out there on the trail and you're having a blast. So treat those folks with respect. And then I've got some more information on the power line closure that is north of Pearisburg. So a couple things going on there. Farrell Hikes, he went through there and he sent in that the area about a mile south and 4 to 5 miles north of the Appalachian Power Easement is a total mess with blowdowns. It's worse than the stretch south of Angel's Rest, and I've heard that is just ridiculous. Indeed, it's the worst he has ever seen anywhere. So it's going to take quite a while from there to clear it, even after that closure is lifted. Cryptic also hiked through that area, and he says there's a great detour in place. And it's, that's the detour where it's showing that you have the safety fence and it's got the trail through there that's marked. However, he said he went through there, but the real problem was the jungle of blowdowns going north on the ridge. He said they got through, but there was a lot of route finding and scrambling. Their legs got scratched up. They broke he broke a trekking pole. He says he would not recommend it, that he would recommend you shuttling around. So trail maintainers, he said, have made it as far as about 5 miles from the north side of the closure. So even though he went through there, I'm telling you not to go through there. It is closed, and there is safety reasons for not going through there. So communicated with the National Forest Service and also the Outdoor Club at Virginia Tech, who maintains that section. And so what's going on there is they've got 6 of those high tension power towers that they are having to completely rebuild. So they're putting them together in sections down in the valley around Pearisburg, and then they're moving them by helicopter up to where the site is through that closure area. So the problem is, when the helicopter comes in, the downwash from the helicopter can break loose widowmakers that are up in the trees due to all the damage from the ice storm. So the same ice storm that wrecked all these towers also wrecked all the trees through this area. And so you can imagine there's widowmakers way up in the top of these trees that can't be gotten to by trail maintainers. And if you're walking through there and a helicopter comes through there, the rotor wash could dislodge those and bring those down on you. So it's really a safety factor at this point, and so you just don't need to be going through there. Also, I was informed that when the helicopter's operating, if they see somebody going through there that's not supposed to be there, they have to shut down the whole site and get accountability for that and get the helicopter out of there, because they don't know who else may be with that person that's hiking, and they don't want to kill somebody. And I can tell you that helicopters are expensive. They probably costing them $2,000 an hour to utilize that bird up there. So just don't go in that area. It's officially closed. Even in a good year, you wouldn't have to go through there in order for it to be counted as a through hike. So shuttle around it. If you just feel like you have to come back and do it later, come back and do it later. But right now, please shuttle around it. Please don't walk through there for your own safety. And every time they stop, that creates a delay, and we want to get that section open as fast as we can for people coming behind everybody. And there has also been widowmakers in the trees along major portions of the Natural Bridge AT Club section where it suffered significant damage due to the ice storm. So all in that area is where big ice storm like a month ago hit. And so this section runs from the south of Black Horse Gap, which is mile 744, north up to Ty River, which is around mile 835. So just keep that in mind, particularly when you're camping. Please look up in the trees before you pitch your tent. Even shelters are not immune to widowmakers going through them or trees going through them. So look around when you get in there. Everything has not been cleaned up from the big ice storms that we had. So please be careful when you're looking up there, because a widowmaker through your tent will end your hike and end your life as well. Or it could injure you or tear your equipment up. So look out where you're camping. And now I want to just real briefly touch on something that I hate to touch on because it's kind of a bad thing, but that is thieves on the trail. So I've heard several people send me instances where there has been some thievery on the trail this year. Unfortunately, that happens in any society, any community. There's going to be ne'er-do-wells out there. It's the AT community and the hiker community is not immune to that. So there was a case where somebody went to go dig a cat hole, left their equipment on the trail, came back, and some of their equipment was gone. And there was also a case where early this year where somebody did the same thing, but instead of the equipment getting stolen, they got disoriented and they had to be rescued because they couldn't find their equipment, didn't know where they were, and so it just got to be a mess. So if you're going to dig a cat hole, take your equipment with you. Always and if you're going to a privy, just take your equipment with you. You just don't ever know who you're with in the shelter unless you do know who you're with. So if you're in the shelter with people you know that are going to look out for your equipment, fine. But if you're not in the shelter with people you don't know, then the safest thing for you to do is just take your gear with you, and that way you won't have to wonder. It's sad that it's like that, but it's like that in society anyway, and unfortunately the hiker community is no different. The hiker community is one of the best communities that I've ever been a part of, and I've been a part of a lot of different communities, but it's not immune to its issues either. And then on a positive note, there was 91 acres given to the National Forest Service up at Carver's Gap, which is kind of the gateway to the Roan Mountain Highlands. So Carver's Gap's the main road you cross over right after you leave the Roan High Shelter there and the gardens area. You'll cross over the major road there. It's just a 2-lane road, and you'll start your climb up to James Bald. So right below that is where the 91 acres was given. So that's going to open up a lot more opportunity for trails and people to hike in and kind of take some of that pressure that's been around Carver's Gap. And there's really only one way to get up to James Bald up there. So they'll develop some more trails there, take some of the pressure off of the AT that goes up to James Bald, and open it up for more opportunities for people. So I thought that was pretty cool, and did want to mention that, and let's end it on a positive note for sure. Folks, that's all I got this week. As always, he is risen, and we'll see you out here.